but we're going to get kicked off, and hope everybody's got a cup of coffee, because I do, and hope you're enjoying the birds, the sound of the lovely birds outside, because I'm sitting on my back porch because it's the quietest place in my house. We're going to spend a little time talking about Cooper-Atkins today. Predominantly, the things that I want to hit on are the quick switch, the HACCP manager, Bluetooth, and NotifEye. HACCP manager and Bluetooth are pretty much hand in hand. HACCP manager is the device all in one, has the controls, you program it, you run it. It has a display screen and you walk through all the steps. The Bluetooth has to pair to a second device, so a phone, a tablet, something. Basically, it is the brain and the instrument in one. HACCP manager is, and Bluetooth is just an instrument. It's basically a Bluetooth thermometer that's set up to sync with the device. So going from there, I'm going to stop sharing my screen again for a second and make you stare at me for a little bit while I kind of go through some of these. Quick switch we're going to hit on real quick. Here it is. It is a folding thermocouple. You've seen a lot of these out there. It's got a little better temperature range than like a standard digital thermometer. It's accurate plus or minus 1 degree up to, I believe, 250 degrees, and then the accurate temperature range is -40 degrees to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. It's got a 5-year warranty. It's fully waterproof. It's got a large display screen on it for temperature readout, and then it's also got a lovely backlit button. Most of the time, not going to be a big deal. It's not like we're all taking temperatures in the dark, but if you are running like outdoor pits, outdoor barbecue pits, smoking, overnight or anything, which a lot of guys do, it does give you that option. Makes it a little easier to see, and in some dark settings. The other, selling point that I'm going to bring up on these is they use any type K probe in these. They come standard with the fixed probe, but this is removable. It's one little set screw, and then it just slides out. If you don't know what I mean by type K probe, I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, there we go. But this is what you're looking at. It's just the two little feet, two little prongs, and they slide down in there. This one is a simulated product probe that caught up. This one's a simulated product probe. We'll get to that later. But that was the whole point of telling, was the type K probe will fit into the quick switch. Basically, the biggest selling point of that is a lot of the competitors, there are people that are making very similar devices, but they have a fixed probe. So if I drop this and snap that probe off, I have to buy a whole new thermometer. This one, if I drop this and it lands directly on the probe, bends the probe, damages the probe in any way, I take the probe out, get rid of it, buy a new just probe, not a whole new thermometer, a whole new thermocouple, slide the probe in there and move on my merry way. From there, we're going to slide over to HACCP manager. This is the HACCP manager all-in-one device. So this one was set up for a test. It's a little outdated. The screen's not going to show amazingly some of the info that I have loaded in it. But basically, you kick it on and you go in here and you can select your user. You can select where you are. And the big thing about the user is that user then is basically logged in. The checklists and the temperature charts that they're doing to go through and take their temperatures for the day go under their name, go under their username. So basically, you have an accountability device now, is what this is. It's one place to put all of your temperatures, to store everything. They have a Wi-Fi version and they have a solo version. The Wi-Fi version is set up to sync to a cloud-based system that Cooper-Atkins hosts that you can access remotely. So basically, if you're a chain, you got a chain of grocery stores, you have franchises that you want to be able to check in, you run multiple facilities, or if your facility is just so large that it needs multiple devices, you as the supervisor or the customer, or not the customer control, the control person, the safety person, you can access all that information, and you can run through all that information and have all the data. The nice thing about this is it will log if someone abandons in the middle of a checklist as well. So if somebody's running through taking temperatures of product and they back out before they actually logged the temperature, or let's say it was out of range, because you set the temperature range on these of what you want when you're setting up your menus. So let's say that it can go no higher than 41 degrees, and you temped it and it was at 54, and somebody panicked and just backed out of it. It will log that it was abandoned in there. And so now you as the manager can go through, find that and say, go to the person, because you have who is filling out the report as well, and go, why did you stop taking this? This was out of range. Why was no one notified? What corrective action did you take? Did you take any corrective action? And that's another part of it too, is you can build in corrective actions to it. So basically the whole point of this is you set up your temperature logs within this device. You'll go through it, you'll scroll through it, go to the temperature device, hit OK, or go to the thing that you want to take the temperature of, hit OK, the menu item. You probe it, and then you select, you hit to enter to get it to register the temperature. Then from there, if it is out of range, it will prompt the person and say, this is out of range. This temperature is not within, the approved temperature range. And you have a list of options that you programmed in to act on that. And a lot of them that are standard that I see the most in there are notify manager, pull and reheat if it's a hot item. So like if it fell out of temperature, you can pull it, bring it back up to a boil, and then put it back in service. You can put that as an option, and discard. Those are the three that I see the most. But these can store up to 3,000 temperature readings on 300 menu items. So you can have a menu of 300 items, and it will store 3,000 temperatures, so you can do multiple readings a day on those same ones. And then you can also set up checklists. So if you want to have this as like your cleaning checklist in there, that somebody needs to close out, someone needs to close down, and closing procedures are, you need to make sure all the dishes are put away, the pass bar scrubbed, all ranges are cleaned out. And you can use it, you can use those checklists, Matt just threw in a question, you can use those checklists to also check on other parts of your location. So if you need to audit that the bathrooms were cleaned, you can add that as a checklist item. If you need to check that the parking lot is free of debris, or there's nothing going on in the parking lot, you need to scan the parking lot, check it, whatever. Make sure that the front of house is open and ready to serve. Let's say side work is not done. Yes, those are all things that can be built in there. You can build those into your checklist and have that as a tool for your managers as well. That's a big thing for multi-unit places. And once again, that'll store 1,500 checklist records. And so you've got several days worth of data within this before you need to upload it. And then, like I said, there's a solo version and this Wi-Fi version. The Wi-Fi version, of course, syncs via Wi-Fi, and you throw everything over to the computer that way. The solo version, you actually have to download the program onto one computer and connect it with a USB. That was the original device. That was how it was set up. Now we have so many different options that, it's there if you need it, but it's a more like 1 or 2 location kind of thing rather than somebody who's running multi-unit operations. And then that takes me over to the Bluetooth device, which, as I said at the beginning of this, Bluetooth is a Bluetooth thermocouple. It is designed to operate with the HACCP Manager software. There's an app that you can download on your mobile devices. You can download it onto a phone, a tablet. It's really easy to navigate, makes a lot of sense. And you can go through and store all that same data that I just described with the HACCP Manager. you can use the Bluetooth and sync it up and use it with your phone. The nice thing about that is it automatically loads everything into the program already, and then you can just sync it to the hosted website service that I mentioned with Asset Manager, and run through that data. With the Bluetooth, they also have a few services that they have set up that it will work with them. So if you have a customer that's already using a like a HACCP program website or app, some of those will work with the Bluetooth device. So even I think at one point Hot Schedules was working with it. I can't remember what all the programs are that they have it set up to operate with. But basically, if you have a customer that's already utilizing a program in place for their temperature logs, an app or a hosted website, but they're not using a Bluetooth device to sync over to it, Cooper has made it to where some of those you can use this device and sync it over to it, so you don't have to use their system, their setup. So NotifEye, of course, is wireless temperature monitoring. You can do temperature and humidity sensors. All the sensors report out to a gateway that then sends the information out to a hosted web service that monitors it. It is a closed 900 megahertz system, so you don't have to connect it to an existing Wi-Fi. It runs through its own hosted gateway. It's 24/7 monitoring. It has the software that you can access remotely anywhere. You can do it from your phone, your tablet, whatever. There's a dashboard on it that will tell you if you have sensors that aren't reading, if you have sensors that are low on battery, if you have sensors that have been damaged, if you have sensors that that are out of range. So if you have one in your walk-in that's out of range, you can go in and see which one it is, how long it's been out of range, where it is. And then you can get deeper down into it and get graphs and charts that'll show you how long it's been out of temperature range, what your cycles are as far as refrigeration or warming. So if you have these, like I said, in a walk-in, you can get a graph of what your flow looks like on temperature. So if you're getting big spikes at the same time every day, or on certain days, you can track it down, and maybe you can figure that out, that like on Tuesdays you get deliveries, and that's the day that you see a big long spike in temperatures every time. So you can kind of track that down and say like, hey, somebody's leaving the refrigerator, the walk-in door open. But even beyond that, it will send you notifications if you are out of range. So the big part on that is while you're closed, late night, overnight, or something else, it will shoot you out info, and it will send a notification out via text or email, and let you know, hey, this walk-in is down. And what you do is when you program it, you name your sensors. So like walk-in 1, or if it's a multiple site kind of place. I'm in St. Louis, so let's say that, you've got a store in Chesterfield, Chesterfield location 1, walk-in down. You can put that in, you can name your sensors that, but go through a couple of steps here. So just to run, like I was saying, of the sensors, you can see the status of them, you can get notifications, you can see the history they've run. So basically you've completely deleted removed the need to keep a paper temperature log. You can do everything pen and paper, or you don't have to do anything pen and paper. It automatically logs all of it, and you can pull it. You can also navigate through and edit the sensor details and parameters, which is what I was talking about. So you can get in, you can rename your sensor. You can also change the parameters. So let's say that you realized you had an extra sensor, you had programmed it for something else, you don't need it for that anymore. You had an extra temperature sensor that you thought you needed 2 in one place, whatever, and you want to take that second sensor and hook it up to a holding cabinet now. You can log into the website, change the name of it to holding cabinet, and change the temperature parameters to, let's say you want to hold between 150 and 170. And so it'll notify you if it falls out below 150 or goes above 170. I already talked about this one as well. Sorry, I get a little excited and just take off running. You can receive via email or text, and you can also send to multiple users. So the handy thing about that is, like, when I see it is schools. I see this, I have this going into schools and have a few locations, and what'll happen is they'll want their manager, the manager of the location, to get a notification, but they also want the food service director to get a notification. Or I've even seen some places, some of the schools, the security gets a notification. Like whoever the security team is for the campus. So they'll get hit a notification, so they know exactly who to call. They can go in the kitchen if they need to. They have keys to get in the places they need to, and they can kind of control what's happening at the moment while they wait for somebody to get on site. And then what I was saying as well is that you can also get low battery miscommunication out of temp range, and then it'll also send a notification when it's back in range, which is a great notification for if you're having refrigeration problems. If you start to get low on charge or your refrigeration's kind of struggling, typically cycles get messed up, cooling cycles get messed up, and you'll have big temperature swings, or you might drop way too low and freeze over. When it comes back into range, it'll let you know. So if you are dropping really low and then swinging back up into range, can be an indicator of, oh, I have other problems going on. And then this gets us into the different types of sensors. This one that it's showing is the ambient air temperature. I have one right here. This one is just measuring the temperature of the air in the room. So you're going to get a few more temperature swings with this one, but this is closest to what most people are wanting to see in there. It's going to give you a running average of what your temperature is in your space. So if you're doing walk-ins, if you're doing reach-ins, if you're doing dry storage, or you want it in a prep table, you can do all that in holding cases. These are, like I said, these are what I see the most often. They're kind of the standard one. This is the humidity sensor. You can also set up the parameters for it. We got dry storage areas and wine cellars, greenhouses, agriculture. A lot of these grow houses use a humidity sensor, and then something that I don't have in this. They also have a package that there are soil stakes as well that'll monitor the temperature of the soil, of the growing medium that you're in. And then we also have a contact sensor. So basically, if somebody leaves the door open too long, is one of the biggest things on that. Or it has listed out restricted areas. If somebody's going in places they don't need to be, or if it's a door that's supposed to be sealed, locked, controlled access, and somebody gets in, it'll kick off a notification that somebody's opened the door. Big one on these that I see the most, though, is people have them in place so that it sends out a notification. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Sends out a notification when somebody decides to leave a walk-in door open too. And then this is the immersion probe sensor. Got a list of things that it uses here. The soil stake is similar to this, but it is not the same thing exactly. They have slightly different parameters that are programmed into them, and the stake's set up a little different. But mostly they have listed out soft serves, shake machines, and lobster tanks. From there, this is just kind of a rundown of what the gateway looks like, how much storage it'll have. So it will store 16 days worth of readings, based on these parameters that it has listed out here. The point of that is, if a sensor falls out of range or something goes wrong that it's not sending the data out, it will store for 16 days. And if something falls out of range and isn't communicating properly with the hosted website, you will get a notification that you have fallen out and that it's not communicating anymore. So that gives you that long of a time to fix that problem. And then a repeater just extends the range. And the last one that I had is the solid simulator probe. It is like an insulated probe to simulate product. It's supposed to be like what the internal temperature of something that's in your walk-in would be. And on that, I'm going to stop talking. I ran over a little bit. I'm sorry, guys. Please let me know if you have any questions.